multiplying polynomials, part 2. We're going to go over several methods for multiplying a polynomial by a polynomial. I'm going to start with a little reminder of the distributive property. A times B plus C equals A times B plus A times C. Now, what if our A was actually something like 3x plus 5, to make it a little bit more complicated, and then we had that times 4x minus 7. In other words, you kind of think of this whole thing as an A and a B, and there's your like a minus C in this case. By using the distributive property, it would mean you would take this whole first part, your A, 3x plus 5, times a 4x, right, minus that whole 3x plus 5 times a 7. That's kind of complicated looking, isn't it? And in fact, I don't like doing it this way, but I'm going to show you where other methods come from. Now it's easier when you have the 4x in front of the parentheses, right? So let's just rewrite that as 4x times 3x plus 5. And let's put the 7 in front of the 3x plus 5 because of the commutative property. It doesn't matter the order when you multiply, correct? So I could put the 4x in front. And then it's easier to do the distributive property here. So we have 4x times 3x plus 5. Now I just have the easier distributive property. 4x times 3x is 12x squared. 4x times 5 is plus 20x. Negative 7 times 3x, be careful of your signs, is negative 21x. And negative 7 times 5 is minus 35. I still have to add like terms. So we have 12x squared. And here are two like terms, 20x minus 21x. That's a negative 1x, which we just write as minus x, minus 35. So that's one way of multiplying 3x plus 5 times 4x minus 7. It's kind of a long way to do it, though. So I'm going to show you some easier ways of getting exactly the same answer. So let's take this problem again. 3x plus 5 times 4x minus 7. And before going on, notice what happened. I've got some multiplications here. I have a 4x times a 3x, and I have a 4x times a 5. In other words, this 4x up in the original problem got multiplied by each thing in this parentheses, by the 3x and the 5. And then I had a negative 7, this number in the second parentheses, was multiplied by each thing in the first parentheses, 3x plus 5 as well. So another way of doing this is a vertical format. We could write the 3x plus 5 and the 4x minus 7. You just write one of the polynomials on top of the other one. And if it's 3 terms, you would just go a little bit further. And what we're going to do is multiply the 4x times everything in the top and then the negative 7 times everything in the top. So let's do that. 4x times 3x is 12x squared. And then the 4x times the 5 is plus 20x. All right, so we've just multiplied 4x times, remember the 4x got multiplied by this whole thing? And now we're going to do the negative 7 times 3x plus 5. So I scooch over. Negative 7 times 3x is negative 21x. And negative 7 times 5 is negative 35. Notice these are the same 4 terms I got right there. 12x squared plus 20x minus 21x minus 35. 12x squared plus 20x minus 21x minus 35. The exact same 4 terms. It's a little easier to keep track of here. And now I need to add the like terms. So the 12x squared, 20 minus 21 is minus 1, which we write as minus x and minus 35. So this is a vertical format, which most people find a lot easier to do than the first way with the distributive property. Okay, so let's have you try one now. Alright, so put the video on pause and multiply x minus 8 times 2x plus 1, either using the distributive property the first way I showed, or using a vertical format. And then when you're done, come back. Okay, I like doing the vertical format, so I'm going to write x minus 8 times 2x plus 1. And I have 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times negative 8 is negative 16x. So I've now just multiplied the 2x times the x minus 8. Now I've got to do the 1 times x minus 8. 1 times x is plus x. Make sure you line it up under its like term, and you could put just plus x or plus 1x. And 1 times negative 8 is minus 8. So we've got 2x squared. I'm going to add the two like terms here. That's a negative 15x minus 8. And there's our answer. Keep in mind, the multiplication's going on right here. This is the 2x times x minus 8. And this is the 1 times x minus 8. All right? So see what's happening here? I'm doing the 2x times the x minus 8, and I'm doing the 1. So there's like the distributive property, how it works again. All right, let's do a problem that has 3 terms times 2 terms. All right, so let's multiply 2x squared minus 5x plus 1 times 3x minus 4. I'm going to use a vertical format. It's always easiest to write the one that has the most terms in it in the top, but you don't have to. So we're going to first do 3x times every term in the top. So 3x times 2x squared, 6x cubed, right? X squared times x is x cubed. 3x times negative 5x is negative 15x squared. And 3x times 1 is plus 3x. So we've just multiplied the 3x times everything here, right? We've done the 3x times everything there. And now we're going to do negative 4 times everything in the top. Negative 4 times 2x squared is negative 8x squared. Negative 4 times 5x is negative 20x. And negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. So I'm being careful that I do line up my like terms. If you write the exponents in descending order, like the x squared term, the x and the constant, the x and then the constant, usually if you move over like this, it'll line up nicely. So now we're going to add like terms. 6x cubed. Now be careful here, it's a negative 15 plus a negative 8. That's a negative 23x squared. And a 3 plus negative 20 is negative 17x. And then minus 4. So here we go. We just multiplied 2 polynomials, where one was a trinomial, it had 3 terms, and the other one was a binomial. All right, I want you to put the video on pause and multiply x squared minus 3x plus 2 times x squared minus 4x minus 6. This time you've got 3 terms times 3 other terms. You'll end up with 9 multiplications. Are you ready? X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times minus 3x is minus 3x cubed. And x squared times 2 is plus 2x squared. Moving over, now we have negative 4x times x squared is negative 4x cubed. Negative 4x times negative 3x is plus 12x squared. Negative 4x plus 2 is minus 8x. Last one. Negative 6 times 6x squared is negative 6x squared. Negative 6 times negative 3x is plus 18x. And negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. See how I got 9 different terms? Now I just add the like terms and I will be done. And this is just one method. And go to the next video and I'll show you another way to get the same answer.